The auction hall was silent, filled with cold blue light and the sound of distant engines humming through metal walls. Hundreds of aliens sat in the shadows, their eyes glowing in colors that made the air feel heavy. On the stage stood a young human woman named Elara, her wrists chained together with a dull silver band. Her hair hung over her face, and her voice shook as she whispered, "Please, someone." Her words echoed, but no one answered. The auctioneer, a tall insectoid creature with a long staff, slammed it on the floor. "Lot 97, he announced. "Last human female from the outer colonies," the crowd murmured. A reptilian noble leaned forward, hissing, "Dangerous species. Not worth the trouble," another laughed. "They cry, they fight, and they break easily." Laughter spread like a cold wind. Elara's knees felt weak. She wanted to run, but the guards held her still. Her heart pounded as the auctioneer shouted, "Opening bid, 10,000 credits." Silence. No hands were raised. He tried again, lowering the number. 5,000. 1,000. Still nothing. A mocking voice from the crowd called out, "Pay to feed a death worlder? Never." Elara closed her eyes, her lips trembling. "Please," she whispered again, "I'll work. I'll do anything." The auctioneer sighed. "If no one bids, she goes to disposal." A faint gasp spread through the room. Even some aliens looked away. Elara's breath caught in her throat. Disposal meant one thing, death. The auctioneer lifted his staff, ready to end it, but then a quiet voice came from the back. Calm and steady. 1 credit. Everyone froze. The crowd turned, murmuring, trying to see who had spoken, out of the shadowed corner. A man stepped forward, tall and human. His face was half hidden under a hood. His eyes calm but unreadable. The auctioneer blinked, unsure if he'd heard correctly. "Repeat your bid," the man said softly. 1 credit. The entire hall erupted into whispers. "He's insane," someone hissed. "A human buying a human." The auctioneer frowned. "You mock this house, sir. This is not a game." The man stepped closer, his boots echoing against the metal floor. "I'm not mocking," he said. "I'll pay in full." The alien's antennae twitched nervously, but greed won over logic. "Very well," he muttered, striking his staff once more. "Sold for 1 credit." The guards released Elara's chains and pushed her toward the man. She stumbled, confused and scared. The man caught her arm gently, his touch surprisingly warm. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "No one here will hurt you again." She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Why did you buy me?" He didn't answer, not yet. Instead, he guided her through the crowd, which now watched in stunned silence. Outside, the air was colder, filled with the sound of engines and distant thunder from the upper sky. The marketplace stretched under a dome of smoke and lights. Elara pulled her arm back. "You can't save me," she said bitterly. "They'll just find another way." The man glanced at her, his eyes calm. "You're not for sale anymore," she frowned. "You don't even know me." He stopped walking and looked straight at her. "I don't need to," he said softly. "I know what they do to our kind." For a moment, she didn't know what to say. "Are you really human?" she asked. You sound different." He gave a faint smile. "Maybe time changes us." Then he nodded toward the far end of the street. "Come with me, I'll get you off this world." She hesitated, fear mixing with curiosity. "Why help me? What's in it for you?" He looked toward the horizon, where the faint shape of a ship gleamed through fog. "Redemption," he said simply as they walked through the narrow streets. The crowd's laughter faded behind them, but Elara couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. Her instincts screamed danger. "They won't let you leave," she whispered. He didn't respond. His pace stayed steady, his steps deliberate. A shadow flickered on a nearby wall, a drone watching them. The man noticed it too, his expression turning sharp. "Stay close," he ordered, pulling her into a dark alley. He took out a small device and pressed a button. The drone's lights flickered and went dead. Elara stared at him. "Who are you?" He turned the corner and finally said, "A man who's tired of seeing humans sold like animals." His voice was cold now, filled with something deeper than anger, sorrow. They reached a hidden door in the wall, and he pressed his palm against a scanner. It clicked open, revealing a metal corridor leading down. "We don't have much time," he said, guiding her inside. They walked into a dim underground hangar, and Ilara stopped in shock. A massive old human ship stood before them, its hull scarred but alive. You're a soldier," she whispered. He shook his head. "Not anymore." Lights flickered across the ship as systems powered up. "Then why save me?" she asked again. He looked at her for a long time, then finally said, "Because once someone saved me the same way above them." Alarms began to wail. The aliens had noticed their escape. "They're coming," Ilara said, her voice trembling. He smiled faintly. "Let them come." As they boarded the ship, the engines roared to life. The man sat in the pilot's chair, hands steady on the controls. Ilara took the seat beside him, glancing out the window as alien ships began to descend from the clouds. "Are we going to make it?" she asked. He met her eyes. "We already did." The ship lifted off, cutting through the storm, fire and light chasing behind. In the chaos, Ilara looked at him again, realizing something. His calm wasn't arrogance. It was pain hidden beneath years of silence. "Who are you?" she whispered. He gave a small, almost broken smile. "Just someone who remembered what humans are worth." As the stars stretched around them and the planet shrank behind, Ilara finally believed him. Somewhere deep inside, she felt it. She wasn't alone anymore. The ship floated in the cold blackness of space, engines humming low like a sleeping beast. Ilara sat quietly near the window, staring at the endless stars. She couldn't believe what had happened. Just hours ago, she was a slave to be sold. Now she sat on a human warship beside a man she didn't even know. He stood near the control deck, silent and still, the light from the screens reflecting off his face. "You should rest," he said softly without turning around. "You've been through a lot," Ilara frowned. "Rest?" she repeated. "You just stole me from an alien auction. We're probably being hunted right now." He finally looked at her, his eyes calm but sharp. "Exactly," he said. "That's why I need you to stay alert." "Not afraid?" She crossed her arms, studying him. "You still haven't told me your name," she said. He gave a faint smile. "Names don't mean much out here." "It does to me," she replied quietly. He sighed and finally answered, "Jalen." The name sounded familiar somehow, but she couldn't place it. "Who are you really?" she asked. "You don't act like a smuggler." He looked away. "Because I'm not," he said. "I used to be part of something bigger." His voice carried pain, like every word was a memory he didn't want to recall. "Something that doesn't exist anymore." Ilara leaned closer. "The human fleet?" she asked. His jaw tightened. "Once," he said simply, "but the fleet is gone, scattered, hunted down." She nodded slowly. "Then why risk coming back for me?" His eyes darkened. "Because every human left behind is a promise I haven't kept." His words hung in the air, heavy and quiet. The ship jolted suddenly, alarms flashing red. "What's happening?" she asked. Jalen moved fast. "Pressing switches, tracking signal," he said. "They've found us." On the radar, glowing dots appeared. Alien interceptors closing in fast. "Hold tight," he ordered. The ship's engines roared, blasting forward into the void. The stars streaked across the glass, beams of light cutting through darkness. "Can't we hide?" Ilara shouted over the noise. "Not yet," Jalen said. "They'll chase until they're sure we're dead." The ship shuddered as the first blast hit. The hull screamed, lights flickered. Ilara gripped her seat. "We're not going to make it," she said. "We will," he replied firmly. "I've done this before." He pressed another control, and part of the ship's outer layer peeled away, leaving metallic debris floating behind. The enemy fire hit the debris, thinking it was them. "Smart," she breathed. "It's a trick," he said, "old fleet tactic." The radar cleared for a moment, giving them space to breathe. Ilara looked at him, her fear replaced by curiosity. "You really were a captain, weren't you?" He didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the stars ahead. "Captain Jalen Ward," she said quietly, reading the name faintly etched on the ship's console. His hands froze for a second, then he smiled bitterly. "You learn fast. You were in the last war," she whispered. The one that destroyed the colonies." He nodded slowly. "And now I'm the only one left from my crew." They drifted in silence for a moment. The stars outside seemed peaceful, but both knew that peace never lasted. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To a safe point," he said. "Old coordinates. Maybe still working." He turned a switch and the map lit up, showing a blinking dot far away. "It's a hidden station, used by survivors. And you think they'll help us?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "They'll help you, not me." "Why not you?" she asked. "Because I left them," he said softly, "and they don't forgive deserters." Ilara watched him for a long moment. "You left to save people like me, didn't you?" He didn't respond, but the answer was clear in his silence. She walked closer. "You can't carry everyone's guilt forever," she said quietly. "You did what you had to." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "You talk like someone who's already lost everything." "I did," she said, her voice trembling. "My family was taken in the raids. I haven't seen them since." His eyes softened. "Then we'll find them," he said. "If they're out there, we'll find them." Before she could reply, a sharp beeping sound filled the room. "Another signal?" she asked. Jalen frowned. "No," he said slowly. "This one's coming from inside the ship." He moved quickly, scanning systems. "Someone planted a beacon." "A tracker?" she gasped. He nodded grimly. "They knew this ship would fly again." Ilara's eyes widened. "Can we remove it?" "We can try," he said, opening a maintenance panel under the control deck. Sparks flew as he worked. The ship's AI voice spoke. "Warning! Critical interference detected." Jalen ignored it. "Cutting through wires." "Almost there," he muttered. Suddenly, the lights flickered and the engines shut down. Silence filled the air. "Jalen," she whispered, "what did you do?" He pulled out a small black device glowing red. "Got it," he said, holding it up. But before he could throw it aside, it started beeping faster. "It's armed," he said sharply. "Get down." The explosion was small but powerful, smoke filling the room. Ilara coughed. "Are you okay?" she shouted. Jalen waved the smoke away, blood trickling down his arm. "Fine," he said. "But they'll know where we are now." He limped back to the pilot's seat and forced the controls to restart. "We have to move before they drop a hunter fleet." Ilara stood beside him, helping as best she could. "You're hurt," she said. "Doesn't matter," he replied. "We move." The engines groaned, struggling to ignite. Finally, with a deep rumble, they came alive again. The ship burst forward, escaping into the stars hours later. When the tension finally eased, Ilara sat beside him again. "You didn't have to save me," she said softly. He gave a tired smile. "Maybe I didn't," he said. "But maybe saving one person is enough to start something again." She looked out at the stars, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in years. "Do you really think humans can come back?" she asked. "We never left," he said quietly. As the ship disappeared into the dark beyond, a small light blinked faintly behind them on one of the drifting debris pieces. Another tracker, active and waiting, and somewhere far away. "On a massive alien dreadnought," a cold voice said. "We found him." The stars stretched endlessly outside the window. The vast silence of space, broken only by the hum of the ship's engines. Ilara sat on the edge of her seat, her hands trembling slightly as she watched Captain Jalen work. His injured arm was wrapped in a piece of torn cloth, stained dark with blood. "You need to rest," she said softly. He shook his head. "Later, we have to reach the safe point first," she frowned. "You'll collapse before that." He smiled faintly. "Wouldn't be the first time." The ship rattled again as it passed through a dense asteroid field. Jalen maneuvered carefully, his hands steady on the controls. "Why not take another route?" she asked. He replied without looking at her. "Because no one follows through here. Too dangerous." A small asteroid scraped the hull, making a metallic scream echo through the cabin. Ilara flinched. "You call that safe?" "Safer than being caught," he said. His calm tone did little to ease her worry. Minutes turned to hours as the ship twisted between massive spinning rocks. Ilara stared out, amazed and terrified. The silence between them grew heavier until she finally asked, "What happens when we reach that station?" He hesitated. If it's still standing, we'll refuel, get supplies, maybe find someone who knows where the others are." She nodded. "And if it's gone?" He glanced at her. "Then we make our own plan." His eyes carried a quiet fire that told her he'd faced worse before. The radar beeped suddenly, flashing red. Ilara's heart jumped. "Are they back?" she asked quickly. Jalen checked the screen, his expression darkening. "No, something else." A small blinking signal pulsed on the edge of the radar. "Could be a distress beacon," he said, "or a trap." Ilara looked uneasy. "We shouldn't stop. We can't ignore it," he said firmly. "If someone's alive out there, we have to check." She sighed, knowing he wouldn't change his mind. "You really don't know how to walk away, do you?" "Not when it comes to our kind," he replied. They followed the signal through the asteroids until they saw it, a wrecked ship drifting silently, half its hull torn open. "Looks human," Jalen said. "Old model. From the war." He slowed down and turned on the external lights, illuminating the wreck burn marks, frozen bodies, and shattered panels floated around it like ghosts. "Do you still think it's worth it?" Ilara whispered. Jalen's eyes stayed fixed. "Yes." He grabbed a small pack from the wall. Slinging it over his shoulder, "Stay here," he said. "I'll check the wreck." "No," she said quickly. "You're not going alone." He studied her face, then sighed. "Fine. But stay close." They put on their suits and crossed the small gap between ships. The metal beneath their boots groaned under the pressure. Inside, the wreck was dark, filled with frozen air and silence. Ilara's flashlight cut through the dust, showing broken helmets and shattered glass. "It's like a graveyard," she whispered. "It is," Jalen said quietly. "Every ship like this tells the same story." They reached the control room, its walls scorched. "Here," he said, pointing to a faint light still blinking on a console. "Someone left a message." He pressed a few keys, and the old hologram flickered to life. A man's voice crackled through the static. "To anyone still alive. This is Commander Hale of the UFS Valiant. We were ambushed near the Orion Belt. Only a few of us escaped. If you find this, the station is not safe. Repeat, the station is not safe." The message ended abruptly with a burst of static. Ilara turned to Jalen, her face pale. "The station, that's where we're going." He nodded slowly. "Seems plans just changed." Suddenly a metallic sound echoed through the wreck, like something moving in the shadows. Ilara froze. "Did you hear that?" Jalen drew his sidearm. "Stay behind me." The noise came again, closer this time, heavy and slow. Out of the darkness a figure emerged, a humanoid shape in a damaged suit, its visor cracked. "Help!" The voice inside rasped weakly. Jalen lowered his weapon slightly. "It's human," he said, rushing forward. He helped the figure sit up. "You're safe now." The survivor coughed hard, removing the cracked helmet, revealing a pale, bearded face. "They're waiting," he whispered. "The station." "They turned it into a trap." Ilara knelt beside him. "Who did?" "The Council's hunters," he gasped. "They use the beacon to lure survivors. Capture them alive." "Experiments." His words faded as his head slumped to the side. "Dead." Jalen's jaw tightened. "We're leaving," he said sharply, pulling Ilara back toward their ship. Now, as they moved, a sudden blast rocked the wreck. The hull split apart, metal screaming. "They found us!" Ilara shouted. Jalen grabbed her hand. "Move!" They leapt across the gap just as another explosion tore through the debris. Once inside their ship, Jalen hit the controls. "Strap in," he ordered. The engines roared, pushing them out of the asteroid field. But beams of red light streaked past. Enemy ships. "Closing fast! They're firing again!" Ilara yelled. Jalen's voice stayed calm. "We'll outrun them." He pulled hard on the controls. The ship twisting sharply, one blast grazing the hull. Sparks flew, alarms screamed. Ilara gritted her teeth. "We can't win against this many." "We don't have to," he said. "We just need to disappear." He flipped a hidden switch, and suddenly the entire ship dimmed. "What did you do?" She asked. "Cloaking system," he said. "Old human tech, rare, unstable, but it'll buy us time." The stars outside vanished as the ship blended into darkness. The enemy ships flew past, searching blindly. After a few tense minutes, Jalen finally exhaled. "They lost us." Ilara let out a shaky breath. "That was close." He nodded. "Too close." His gaze turned cold again. "The station's not our destination anymore." "Then where?" she asked. "Somewhere the council can't reach," he said. "We'll find another way." She looked at him, unsure what scared her more, the aliens chasing them or the calm determination in his eyes. "You knew it might be a trap," she said quietly. "But you went anyway." "Because if even one survivor was there, I couldn't ignore it," he replied. "That's what humans do. We look for each other, even when it hurts." As the ship drifted quietly among the stars once more, Ilara sat beside him, her thoughts heavy. "You think the council will stop hunting us?" she asked. "No," Jalen said, "but the more they chase, the closer we get to finding everyone they've hidden." He looked out at the endless darkness. "They think we're running," he said softly, "but soon they'll realize we're coming back." The ship's lights dimmed, leaving only the glow of the stars. Ilara leaned back in her seat, her fear slowly replaced by something else, hope. For the first time, she believed that maybe, just maybe, humans weren't finished yet. The ship floated in silence, hidden deep in the shadows of a dead moon. Only the faint hum of the engines filled the air. Ilara sat beside Jalen in the cockpit, her eyes watching the monitors flicker softly. "So what now?" she asked quietly. He didn't answer right away, his fingers tapping the side of the console. "We find out who's tracking us," he said finally. "And why they want humans alive," Ilara frowned. "You think they're doing experiments?" "Worse," he said, "they're studying us." She looked at him confused. "Studying us? For what?" He leaned back in his chair, his eyes cold, to understand what makes humans fight even when there's no hope. The silence that followed was heavy. Ilara didn't know how to respond. "You talk like you've seen it before," she said softly. He nodded slowly. "I saw it during the last battle. The council didn't understand why we kept fighting after losing everything." His voice lowered. "They still don't." Before Ilara could say anything more, the console beeped, a small blinking light flashing red. "We're being scanned," Jalen said sharply. "How?" "We're cloaked," Ilara asked. He quickly checked the readings. "They must have upgraded their tech." He turned a switch. "We can't stay here." The engines came alive with a low roar. The ship shot out from the shadow of the moon and into open space. "Hold on," he warned. Within seconds, beams of light sliced through the darkness behind them. Alien ships appeared, sleek, black and fast. "They found us again!" Ilara shouted. Jalen gritted his teeth. "They won't get close enough." He spun the ship sharply. Dodging the blasts, the cockpit shook as one of the beams grazed their tail. "Shields at 40%, the AI voice announced. "We can't keep this up," Ilara said, her voice tight with fear. "Then we stop running," Jalen said. She turned to him, shocked. "What?" He pressed a button, and a hidden panel slid open beside his seat, revealing a small red switch. "You're not serious," she said. "That's a weapon system, isn't it?" He gave a faint smile, something like that. He flipped the switch, and the ship began to change. Panels on its surface slid open, revealing old human cannons long thought extinct. "This ship isn't just a survivor," he said. "It's a ghost of the old fleet." The alien ships closed in fast. Preparing to fire again, Jalen's eyes narrowed. "Let's remind them who we are." He pulled the trigger, and the ship's cannons unleashed a storm of light. The first alien ship exploded instantly, the shockwave scattering the rest. "What was that?" Ilara gasped. "Prototype plasma weapon," he said calmly. "Built before the war ended, never used. Until now." She stared at him in disbelief. "You've been flying around with that kind of power." He nodded. "It was never meant for offense. It was meant for warning." The remaining alien ships regrouped, sending out a transmission. A deep voice came through the speakers, distorted but cold. "Captain Ward, surrender the girl, and we'll let you live," Jalen smirked. "They always say that." Ilara looked panicked. "They know who you are. They've known for a while," he said. "They just didn't know where to find me until you came along." Her face fell. So this is my fault. He turned to her, his voice calm. No, this is their mistake. He switched the comm channel on. You're talking to the wrong man, he said to the alien voice. I don't surrender. Not now. Not ever. The alien commander hissed. You're outnumbered, Captain. Your time is over. Jalen's tone remained steady. Funny. I've been hearing that since the war. Then he cut the line and pulled the ship into a dive. Heading straight toward a nearby debris field, the alien ships followed. You're going into a minefield, Ilara warned. Exactly, he replied as they entered the debris zone. The radar filled with warning signs. Old mines floated silently among broken ships. If we hit one, we're dead, she said. If they follow, they're dead, he replied. The alien ships fired blindly, their blasts triggering several mines. Explosions filled the area, lighting the darkness like fireworks. Jalen weaved through the chaos with impossible precision. They can't track us here, he said. They'll think we're gone, after a few tense minutes. The last explosion faded, and the radar showed no more pursuit. Ilara leaned back, shaking. You're insane, she said. Half laughing, half crying, he smiled. Maybe. But it worked. He powered down the ship and let it drift quietly. We'll stay hidden here for a while, he said. No signals, no movement. Ilara stared at him. You planned all of this, didn't you? He shrugged. You learned to plan when everyone wants you dead. She hesitated before asking, so what happens now? He looked out the window at the shattered remains of ships floating in space. Now, he said, we start finding out how deep this goes. She frowned. What do you mean? He pointed at one of the wrecks outside. That's a council ship, he said. Human markings on it, but alien design. Her eyes widened. You mean they were working together? He nodded slowly. The war was never just humans versus aliens. It was humans controlled by aliens. The revelation hit her hard. So, they made us fight each other, she said softly. He nodded, and when we were broken, they took the survivors as slaves. But they didn't expect us to rise again, he leaned forward. His eyes cold and determined. This isn't just about saving a few humans anymore. It's about ending the lie they built. She looked at him in silence, realizing for the first time how far he was willing to go. And you think we can do that? She asked. 2 people against an empire? He smiled faintly. It always starts with 2. The ship drifted quietly, hidden among the wreckage, a lone shadow in a sea of metal. But somewhere out there, the Council's scanners were already searching again, and Jalen knew this was only the beginning of a much larger war. He turned to Ilara, his voice low. Next time they find us, they won't be the hunters. She met his gaze and nodded. Then we better be ready. Outside the stars burned brighter, silent witnesses to the return of a fight the galaxy had long forgotten. The wreck field around the ship was silent, fragments of old vessels drifting like ghosts in the dark. Jalen sat in the pilot's seat, his eyes fixed on the scanners, while Ilara worked quietly beside him. No signals yet, she said. We're still hidden, he nodded. Good. But they'll come back, she frowned. How can you be so sure? Because they never stop, he replied calmly. They can't risk humans rising again. The air inside the ship felt heavy, the silence pressing down on both of them. Ilara broke it first. You said they studied us, she said. Did you mean they still have human prisoners? He looked up slowly. Yes. His voice was low. Thousands, maybe, across different sectors, hidden under fake colonies. The Council calls them research stations. Her eyes widened. And they're alive? Some of them, he said. If we're lucky, she clenched her fists, then we have to go. We can't just sit here. He turned toward her, his gaze steady. We will, but not blind. She stared at him, frustration rising. You sound like you've been planning this forever. I have, he said simply. But every plan needs proof. She crossed her arms. And what if that proof never comes? He looked back at the scanner. Then we make our own. A sudden ping interrupted them. The radar lit up, a faint signal pulsing from far ahead. There, Ilara said quickly. That's another beacon. Jalen leaned forward. Analyzing at different frequency, he muttered. Old human code. Her heart skipped. So it's friendly. He hesitated. Maybe, but remember what happened last time? She nodded, though her curiosity was stronger than her fear. We have to check, she said. If it's one of ours, they'll know what's happening. Jalen sighed but changed course. We'll go in slow as the ship neared the signal's source. A small planet came into view, half covered in storms, half lit by a dying sun. This doesn't look safe, Ilara murmured. It never does, Jalen replied. They descended through the clouds, the wind howling against the hull. Below them lay a city in ruins, metal towers broken and scorched. It's from the old war, he said quietly. Human settlement. Abandoned decades ago, the beacon led them to a large underground hangar, still faintly powered. Jalen landed the ship carefully. Keep your suit on, he said. We don't know what's inside. As the ramp lowered, the smell of dust and old fuel filled the air. Ilara looked around. This place gives me chills. That's because something survived here, he said, activating his scanner. The signal pulsed stronger now. It's coming from below. They moved through the dark corridors, flashlights cutting through the haze. Ilara spotted old banners hanging from the ceiling, faded symbols of Earth's flag mixed with alien markings. They tried to merge us, she said bitterly. Humans under alien rule, Jalen nodded, and when it failed, they erased the evidence. The deeper they went, the louder the sound of static grew, until finally they reached a large metal door marked Containment Bay 09. Jalen pressed his hand to the panel. It's still active, he said. The door slid open slowly with a hiss, revealing rows of glass pods glowing faintly in the dark. Ilara stepped closer, her breath catching. Oh my God, she whispered, they're human. Inside each pod lay a person, frozen, asleep, untouched by time. Jalen's jaw tightened. Cryogenic stasis, he said. They were keeping them for something. A faint hum filled the air as lights flickered on across the room, and a mechanical voice spoke from the ceiling. Unauthorized access detected, Jalen cursed under his breath. We triggered a failsafe. Ilara looked around, panic rising. We have to go. Wait, Jalen said, running to a nearby console. If we leave now, the system will purge the pods. What? She said. You mean it'll kill them? Exactly, he said. I can override it, but it'll take time. The floor shook violently. Intruders detected, the voice said again. Deploying security units. Metal panels opened, and robotic drones began to crawl out, red lights flashing. Jalen! Ilara shouted. They're coming! Hold them off! He said, typing furiously. She grabbed a blaster from the wall and fired, bright bursts lighting up the dark. The drones advanced, firing back, sparks flying across the floor. Almost there, Jalen shouted. One of the drones exploded near Ilara, knocking her down. I can't hold them, she screamed. Jalen hit the final command and shouted, Now! The power surged. The pod's lights shifted from red to green. They're safe, he said, running toward her. Let's move. They sprinted through the corridors as explosions echoed behind them. The facility began to collapse, the AI voice repeating, Containment failure detected. They reached the ship and launched just as the hangar exploded. Fire and debris shot into the air. You did it, Ilara said, panting. You saved them. He didn't reply. His eyes fixed on the display. No, he said quietly. Not yet, she frowned. What do you mean? I sent a signal, he said, to wake them up. They'll need ship supplies. Leadership. Her eyes widened. You started something, didn't you? He looked at her and nodded. A resistance. She leaned back, realization hitting her. That's why they were hunting you. They don't fear humans, he said. They fear what happens when we stand together again. Suddenly, the radar beeped again, multiple signals closing in fast. They're here, Ilara said, panic returning. Jalen smiled faintly. Let them come. We've already won the first round. He pulled the ship higher into the sky, through the storm and back into space. Below them, on the ruined planet, lights began to flicker across the ground. The pods were opening one by one. Figures stepped out, confused but alive. Unaware that the galaxy had just changed forever, Ilara turned to Jalen. So what now? She asked. He looked at her, his eyes calm but fierce. "Now," he said, "we show them that humans never stop fighting." The stars stretched before them, endless and bright, and as the ship disappeared into the void, the sound of awakening echoed behind them, the birth of something the galaxy thought was gone forever. Humanity was back, and this time they weren't alone. The stars stretched endlessly before them, glowing like sparks against the dark ocean of space. Jalen sat in silence, his eyes locked on the radar as the ship moved through the void. Behind them, the world they had escaped from was now a dying fireball. "They'll know what we did," Ilara said softly. "They'll come after us harder than before," Jalen nodded. "I'm counting on it," she frowned. "Counting on it? You want them to find us?" He turned his head slightly, a faint smile crossing his face. "Not us, them." Ilara looked confused. "What do you mean?" He pointed at the monitor where hundreds of small, blinking dots had begun to appear. "Those are the cryopods we freed," he said. "They're spreading across the system, linking together. They're the signal." She leaned closer. "A signal for what?" His voice lowered. "For the others." Suddenly, the radar beeped sharply, dozens of red dots lighting up the edges of the screen. "Council ships," Ilara whispered. Jalen's hands moved quickly over the controls. "That didn't take long. Can we run?" she asked. "No," he said quietly. "They'll just follow. We stand here." Her eyes widened. "Stand? Against them?" "Yes," he said calmly, "but not like before." He tapped a switch on the console, and the ship's floor rumbled. Deep within the hull, something ancient began to power up. "What are you doing?" Ilara asked nervously. "Remember when I told you this ship was a ghost of the fleet?" He said, "Well, ghosts remember their homes." The lights around them dimmed as the ship's AI came online. "Captain Jalen Ward," it said in a deep mechanical voice. "Authorization recognized. Activating defense network." Outside, the stars shifted, revealing massive hidden shapes emerging from the shadows of asteroids, old human warships. Silent and scarred, drifting but alive, Ilara gasped. "How long have they been here?" "Since the end of the war," he said. "They were ordered to sleep until someone called them home." The ships powered up, engines glowing faint blue. "Now," Jalen said quietly. "They're awake!" The alien fleet approached fast, their bright lights cutting through the dark. "They've brought destroyers," Ilara said. "We can't fight that. We don't have to," he said. "We just remind them who we are." He opened the comms, sending a signal to all the newly awakened human ships. "This is Captain Ward of the Earth Fleet," his voice echoed. "To any ship still listening, and the war never ended." And neither did we. One by one, lights blinked across the radar. Human warships responding, their engines roaring to life. "Fleet status active," the AI announced. Jalen leaned forward, his voice low. "Engage formation." The human ships aligned in silence. Facing the Council Armada head-on, Ilara gripped the armrest. "They're still coming. They think we're weak," he said. "Let them learn the truth." The first volley hit, plasma beams and energy blasts striking against the human shields. The ship shook, lights flickering. "Shields at 70%, the AI reported. "Return fire," Jalen ordered. The human fleet fired in perfect unison, their ancient cannons releasing waves of pure light. The first Council destroyer exploded instantly, the blast lighting up the stars. Ilara's eyes widened. "We hit them!" "No," Jalen said quietly. "We reminded them." More enemy ships poured in, but now they hesitated, their perfect formation breaking apart. "They didn't expect this," Ilara said. "No one ever does," he replied. The radio crackled with voices, other humans. "Some weak, some broken, but all alive. Captain Ward, this is Vanguard 3. Systems functional. Ward, this is Perseus." Joining the line, the fleet was growing. One signal at a time, the alien flagship appeared on the horizon. Larger than any other, dark and silent. "That's their command ship," Jalen said. "The one that started it all." Ilara swallowed hard. "What are you going to do?" He looked at her, calm as ever. "Finish it." He activated the manual control and steered the ship forward. "You're not thinking—" she began, but he interrupted softly. "Someone has to." The human fleet formed behind him, their lights glowing brighter. "All units," Jalen said over the comms, "this is not about revenge. It's about freedom." He locked onto the flagship, its massive energy core glowing like a sun. "They wanted to study us," he said quietly. "Now they'll learn something new." The alien flagship fired first, a beam of energy slicing through the dark, but the human ship didn't stop. "Impact in 5 seconds, the AI warned. Ilara shouted, "Jalen, we can't survive this." "We don't have to," he said calmly. "We just have to end it." The ship's engines roared, every system overheating, alarms screaming. At the last second, he pressed a single red button on the console. "For Earth," he whispered. The ship's main cannon fired a blinding beam that tore through the alien flagship's core. The explosion was massive. Swallowing both ships in light, the blast spread outward, destroying half the enemy fleet instantly. For a long moment, there was only silence. When the light faded, Ilara opened her eyes. She was alive, floating in an escape pod. The wreck of Jalen's ship drifting nearby. "Jalen!" she called weakly. The radio crackled, his voice faint but steady. "Still here," he said. "You didn't think I'd miss the end, did you?" Tears filled her eyes. "You did it." "No," he said softly. "We did." The line went silent. The surviving human ships began to regroup. The alien fleet was gone, destroyed or scattered on every channel. Voices of humans filled the air, cheering, crying, rebuilding hope. Ilara looked out at the stars and whispered, "You kept your promise." Days later, the story spread across the galaxy. The council had fallen silent, their authority broken, and in the ruins of their empire, a new signal echoed, a human voice repeating a simple message. "To all who can hear this, humanity has returned." Ilara stood at the edge of the new flagship's deck, the stars shining bright before her, somewhere out there. Jalen's escape pod drifted in silence, waiting to be found. "We'll find you," she whispered, her eyes firm. "Because that's what humans do." The fleet moved forward, engines lighting up the dark. Humanity, once forgotten, now led the way through the stars again, stronger, fiercer, unbroken. The ghosts of the past had awakened, and this time they would never sleep again.